Turn it up.
Howdy fellas, this is Southern Cygnar back with another Warmachine battle report. Gonna play some Cygnar versus Khador, 35 points. The scenario tonight is throwdown, and here's our two objectives. Now I am actually going to get up to I'm going to get to set up and go first, and Khador will deploy and move second. So the bad guys for this presentation is eIrusk. Be the first time I've fought him, and he brought 2 destroyers. We've got Covenant Joe with Winter Guard and a Rocketeer weapon attachment, 2 Winter Guard mortars, and a Man-O-War demolition core. So the good guys, and once again, thanks Mark Pass for loaning me some miniatures. I'm getting to try out a bunch of units I've never played before and make sure that the troops are all painted. So we've got Siege, and I brought a Defender and an Ironclad. Brought Junior with another Defender. Now I'm taking some advice I got off of one of the comments here. Appreciate that. And I have a Long Gunners with a unit attachment. First time I've used those. And we're going to try out a unit of Field Mechanics and see how they work out. And last but not least, my favorite little Goblin, Reinhold. So this is my first time setting up first, so in these battle reports, so a little bit different things to consider here. I'm gonna put the Long Gunners out first, and then I put Siege with his Defender to his left and the Ironclad to the right, back a little bit. I then put Junior down with his Defender, and Reinhold there next to Siege, with the Field Mechanics coming in last, and I kind of backed him up because I knew Khador has a lot of blast templates, so I kind of want to keep him safe. Now Kevin put down eIrusk with his 2 destroyers, 1 on each flank there, and he put Covenant Joe with the Winter Guard in the center, and he was flanked left and right by a Winter Guard mortar, and then his Man-O-War demolition cores he put kind of right in front of him. Apparently these guys are going to just be there to protect him through the whole game, or that's what it's looking like. Another look at that deployment. Now, because I was deploying first, I kind of thought, you know, with the victory conditions being we have to control both objectives, I didn't want to give too much away in my deployment, so I kind of put down in the center. Then I could see how he would go and kind of react to that. And he did something very similar. I kind of thought this game would shake out to where, you know, I would go to one side, he would go to another. We'd both grab a control zone, and then we'll just kind of beat each other up and try to take the other one. So, you know, we'll see how it shakes out, but that's just kind of what my thoughts were at deployment. And another look at the Khador deployment here. So I'm moving first, and yeah, I apologize. I basically fuzzied up every one of the Cygnar control phase pictures. I don't know what I was doing, and I wasn't paying a lot of attention. So apologize for that in advance. But going to start out giving 4 focus to Siege, 1 to each of his Warjacks, so the Defender and the Ironclad both get 1, and then Junior's going to keep 2 and give 1 to his Defender. So on my first activation, I just run the Long Gunners up, and basically from there, they've got a pretty good range there. They can hit both of the control zones, and just on the other side of the wall, on that little ruined building on the other side. So Siege's Defender runs over to the left. Junior's Defender runs over to the left, and now I got a considerable amount of firepower on the left-hand control zone. I'm trying to force him right, and then maybe we can, you know, fight left to right for the control areas, but we'll see how that works. The Ironclad runs up behind the wall, and I'm thinking if I'm gonna have to take out the control zone to the right, I want to have my melee jack over there. Siege runs up, and then he casts Foxhole on the long gunners there, because once again I know he's got a lot of blast templates, so I want to try to get them some cover. Reinhold runs up, doesn't really do anything this turn. Junior runs up behind the wall. He casts Arcane Shield on the Ironclad. Now, looking back, I don't know what I was thinking, but you know, I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah. And last but not least, we're going to run the mechanics up and kind of spread them out and make sure that if any templates come back on them, minimize the damage by spreading them out as much as we can. So onto the Khador control phase. He gives 1 focus to each of his destroyers, and then eIrusk keeps 5 for himself. One note during all this is eIrusk has a special ability or something called martial discipline, and apparently it just lets his guys move through each other and see through each other and all that happiness. So a lot of these moves where it looks like models are just piling through, they really are. It's due to this martial discipline thing that eIrusk has got. So the first thing he does, he runs the Winter Guard up to the right. So I'm thinking that's pretty good. He's going to go for the objective on the right, and at least the battle will play out like I was thinking it would, or I thought so at the time. He runs the Winter Guard mortar up. Then he runs the other mortar up. Now, one comment on these mortars is, last game, that thing's fired at, or he had one, and it fired at me the whole game and didn't do anything. And I was thinking, great, because now he's going to have 2 of them that'll fire me the whole game and not do anything. But that's not going to be the case, as you'll see. Anyway, he runs his left-hand defender up. He's not quite close enough to the wall to get cover yet. To the front wall, he is close enough to get cover on that destroyer's right. And this is another example. He just takes that destroyer and runs right through the middle of all that other stuff. He then moves Kovnik Joe up. He then gives the courage speech. He moves eIrusk, and he casts Fire for Effect on the right-hand mortar, and he casts Tactical Supremacy on the right-hand destroyer. Not really sure what those do, or wasn't at the time, but you'll see that here in a minute. And then he moves his Man of Wars up, just kind of protect him. Now, after all the activations were done, the Tactical Supremacy spell kicked in, and that right-hand destroyer got to move again. So, pretty handy little trick. So, back to the Cygnar control phase. Let's get something done here. Put 2 focus on Siege's defender, and 4 focus on Siege. Not really going to give the Ironclad any this turn. And Junior's going to put 2 focus on his defender, and then upkeep the Arcane Shield on the Ironclad. So, quick look at the board here. As I often do, I started out with Action Spyglass on Reinhold just to make sure and see what my ranges were. And as it turns out, my long gunners, the first couple were just inside of range for that first destroyer, but I decided I needed to go ahead and move them up and give them more target opportunities. So for my second activation, I moved the long gunners up. At this point, they've got range on both of the mortars and both of the destroyers. But like I said before, those mortars were not that big of a threat in the earlier game. So I decided to shoot at the right-hand destroyer, doing combined range attack, and I did 5 points to column 4. So I move the left-hand defender up, or Siege's defender. I take a shot at the destroyer on the left, and I do 4 points to 6. And then I move Junior's defender up, shoot the same destroyer, hit it, and even with boosted dice rolls, do no damage. So some below average damage dice rolls there, so I think he got off a little lucky. But what do you do? Siege then moves up and casts Foxhole on the long gunners. Junior moves over to the left, and then the mechanics run, and I figure I'm about to if I was him, I would be shooting at these defenders. So I wanted to make sure the mechanics were in a position that if I take any kind of damage, I can start getting that repaired. And lastly, I moved the ironclad up just so I'm not really sure how it's going to go, but if he shoots at the ironclad, that's fine. It's the one with arcane shield, and if he doesn't, then he'll be in a position to assault into that next control zone next turn. So back to Khador. He gives 1 focus to each of his destroyers. He keeps 3 focus on eIrusk, and he spends 2 focus to upkeep the Fire for Effect and the Tactical Supremacy spell. So starting out, the first thing he does is he shoots that Winter Guard mortar that last game really didn't do anything the whole game at the defender, and does 10 points to column 3. At this point, I realized that the mortar with Fire for Effect is a far different animal than the mortar with without Fire for Effect, and these guys just went way up on my threat level list because that one hurt. So he then moves up his right-hand destroyer, and he fires at the same defender, and he does 2 points to 1. Now at this point, we looked at it later, we figured out he may have made a slight mistake here, because he had only put 1 focus on each of these destroyers, and he was boosting his shots to hit, which in these cases he was needing. But if those had been boosted damage rolls, that would have hurt a lot more. So he did 2 points to column 1 on that defender. He then moves up the other destroyer, shoots at the same defender, and does 2 points to column 5. Now the Winter Guard move up. He does a combined range attack to the long gunners, and he kills 1. His Rocketeer then shoots at the wounded defender, but he misses, and it scatters off and does nothing. He then moves eIrusk over, and this is the first time I've seen this little trick, and I'll talk about it more in another video. But he moves eIrusk over. He then casts Fire for Effect on the other Winter Guard mortar, so effectively he's going to get two shots with that spell this turn. And then that other Winter Guard mortar shoots at the wounded defender, doing 7 points to column 2 and killing the defender's movement. So pretty nasty round of shooting there for me, or for him. And then the Man of Wars move over to put their wall back up in front of eIrusk, and Kovnik Joe moves up and casts Courage Speech on the Winter Guard. So another look at it, and quite frankly, that round of shooting went definitely in Khador's favor. But this is an example of either my buddy Kevin taking his eye off the ball, or maybe eIrusk can't handle his vodka. Because if you're paying attention, this is the beginning of my turn 3, and there's nobody in the right-hand control range, or the control zone. So what was shaping up to be a pretty good fight, I'm going to win this one. So in the Cygnar control phase, I give 2 focus to Siege's defender, 2 focus to Siege, upkeep the foxhole, don't even really know why I'm doing all this, give 1 focus to the ironclad, upkeep the arcane shield on the ironclad, and give 2 focus to the defender. But I moved the left-hand defender into the left-hand control zone. I run the ironclad into the right-hand control zone, and rather sort of anticlimactic, that's the end of the game, with a victory to Cygnar for controlling the zone. So it's an example here of I think Kevin got a little bit of tunnel vision and was concentrating on firing and kind of forgot the victory conditions. So as always, comments, tips, and advice are welcome, and I hope you enjoyed it.